Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you again for checking out today's episode. Hey, you know what we talk about here? We talk about financial hacks, and we also talk about career advancement. Those are two areas that I'm pretty good at. Own businesses in both areas, so I like to think that I can probably offer some, okay advice when I'm asked questions. So today we're going to talk about giving a 2-week notice. Man, people feel indifferent about it. Some people say, yeah, you must give a notice. If you don't give a notice, it's so unprofessional. I'm telling you, I get tired of hearing that, And I'll be honest with you, I've been in this industry 22 years now. Growing up in the industry, initially, we're talking about late 90s, it was customary. If you didn't give a 2-week notice, man, it was like you were like the scum of the earth. How could you not give a 2-week notice, right? And so as I continue to progress in the industry, right, I started to pay attention that when a company wants to let you go, they do what? They walk you out. Or on a Friday, they'll say, oh, by the way, today's your last day. Doesn't matter if it's staffing or private industry. Now, the government works a little different. The Fed works a little different, where you are protected a little more, right? But overall, in private industry, they can tell you on a Friday at 3 o'clock, hey, we won't need you anymore. And then they pay you for your next 2 weeks or your vacation or what have you. And that's totally acceptable. Everyone accepts that. Now, you don't have to have done something wrong. It could be a downsize. It could be they're shifting your work to another area of the United States or whatever. It doesn't have to be that you got fired because you were negligent and did something wrong, right? Yet, the results are still the same. Someone can tell you on a Friday, you're about to go to happy hour, about to go hang out with your children or your family, and someone says, come to my office. And they give you a box, and they tell you to take everything that you have, and you put them in that box. This is your last day. And no one frowns upon that. And it's been like this for years, forever. So, as I started to see this happen in corporate America, more and more and more, and it was like, okay, no big deal. No one cared. But as soon as someone says they're leaving, accepted another job, oh, and I can't do 2 weeks because I have to fly out for a training or whatever. Sometimes there's some valid excuses for these things, right? They're the scum of the earth. Oh, well, you should give us a 2-week notice. It's the right thing to do. I'm going to give you guys an example of why, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I always tell you, do what's best for you, all right? Don't do something to be spiteful, right? And don't do something that's going to, pull you too much out of your quasi comfort zone, right? So let's say you interview for a job, you're hired for the job, okay? And once everything checks out, meaning they do their background checks and, if there's a drug screen involved, everything checks out. At that point, that's when you technically can give your notice. Make sure you understand that. Do not put in no notice prior to everything checking out. Even if you think, hey man, my background's 100% solid, I haven't had any issues ever. Hold on a minute. Just wait until you get the all clear before you put your notice in. Because some companies now, they add credit checks to these backgrounds. They do all types of different things, and sometimes you never know what can come up on a background check. Even things you don't even know about. You be like, wow, I didn't know that was there. Well, I didn't know that y'all cared about this. I.e. credit. All right. So yes, they checking out credit now. Because some jobs, financial jobs and things that are going to be, maybe you're a manager, a senior manager, going to be handling a certain budget over a certain amount of money. A lot of clients now, some of the directors or senior directors, they may have a budget in excess of $5 million a year. And if that's the case, they want to make sure you can manage that money, that you're not going to misappropriate funds, etc. In most cases, credit comes into play if you want to work for, i.e. maybe the IRS, FDIC, Treasury, places that kind of deal with money. They want to make sure you don't owe them money, i.e. bad taxes, back taxes. As long as you check out there, they're kind of like, yes, you can come work for us. But so back to the point here. Look, make sure the background checks out first. So in this example, let's assume the background's checked out. Put your notice in. You're giving a 2-week notice now, right? Because if they're cool with you starting in 2 weeks, what's the big deal? It's like it's no harm, no foul. You just work the 2 weeks out. Now some time and say, man, I'm trying to take off 4 or 5 days before I start this new job, right? You put your 2 weeks in here now, and instead of starting on the 15th, you start on the 25th or whatever. You guys know how to do that, right? So that works out. That's no harm, no foul. You leave with a full check and you start on a good terms with the new employer. Now, what some companies have started to do, and what I mean by the company that now hired you, your new job, and I just hate this. They're saying, hey, we need them to start as soon as possible, right? So industry standard is a 2-week notice, right? So I always caution, and the antlers go up. Red flag for me if a company is trying to press me to start in 2 days, in 3 days, in a week, when in most cases, you want to give a 2-week notice. So you're telling me to burn a bridge over here, especially if I'm working already. You know what I'm saying? I'm working already, but yet you want me to just say, forget that and come over here and start your opportunity right away. So I will tell you guys, be very, very cautious of opportunities that, you guys got to start right now. We need you to start in 3 days or we can't bring you on board. If that's the case, they did you a favor, because it's going to be a bunch of BS once you get started. You're going to probably be in a high stressful environment. It's going to be all this other stuff going on. Like, trust me, if you're going into a new situation, go in that situation on your terms, right? But now, in that example I just gave you, that's 2-week notice. It's not hurting you to give a 2-week notice. It's no sweat off your back. 2-week notice, and you give them you tell them you can start in 3 weeks, right? You know what I mean? So it works, right? Especially if you want to get that week off. That works. Now, back to the point of how companies just lay you off on a Friday. No notice of anything. And no one even cares. No one talks about it. No one's held accountable for that. But if you do it, everybody looks at you like, no, how can you do that? You got to give us a 2-week notice. Let me tell you something. I'm calling bull crap on that, man. Because look, if you're in a position where you have a new opportunity, and unfortunately, they got to fly you for training, because they do these training classes maybe once a month for incoming employees, right? In the training classes coming up that next week, for example, because the next one's not going to be until the following month. In those circumstances, you might have to, get up out of there in a week or less, right? Because you got to remember, you got to do what's best for you. And in this example, if you say, well, hey, I want to give them a 2-week notice, so I'm going to have to start the following month. What they're going to probably tell you is, thank you for trying out, but we're going to go with someone else. Because you're thinking about this 2-week notice, this professional, being professional. I don't want my current company to feel away. See, we're programmed. They got you programmed to the point where you're going to work there as long as you can. And if you leave, you better give them a 2-week notice. But on the other hand, you're going to work here as long as you can. But when we don't want you, we don't got to give you any notice. We're going to just walk you out. See how that doesn't even make sense. That's crazy. So I'll tell you, do what's best for you. In this example, yes, it's probably best you give the 1-week notice. Your current employer, either going to be happy for you or they're going to be pissed at you. It is what it is. I've seen it work both ways. I've seen it where a client has to, candidate has to start a new job right away for various circumstances, not because of pressure, because maybe their training schedule is on a certain, time frame, and it is what it is, And the losing company is like, oh man, we totally understand, just let us know if we can help you wrap some things up. Hate to lose you, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And they're okay with it because they get it, they understand it. They get it. It is what it is. Then you have these companies, and sometimes it's not necessarily the company, it's the losing manager. Oh, this is just very unprofessional, and this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? because they're worried about losing you, because now that's maybe more work they have to do, and they have to backfill your position and all that stuff. But they're not worried about really you. They're worried about how it affects them. See how that works? They're worried about how it affects them. So you got to do what's best for you always. Now, how do I feel about it? I think if it's available, if there's no reason that you have to start a job right away, I think, yeah, man, you give a 2-week notice. You know what I mean? Now, if you got a vacation plan for the next week and you like, well, I'm not, I got to go on vacation because I got to fly here or whatever. I'm going on a cruise or whatever it may be. And, the job happened to come up and you got the job and you're going to start the new job, in a couple of weeks. So you want to get that vacation in. You can't give a 2-week notice. I get that too. I'm not mad at you, but I'm always going to encourage you, do what's best for you. Don't be difficult when you don't really have to be difficult. Because some people, I've also seen they get a job and then they just stop coming to the old job. You know what I mean? Like, now this is usually with the lower level positions, but I also seen it where, people give, they would tell their manager, hey, today's my last day. I just most recently had, a new manager that I support and do business with now, client, I call him. He just did that with his last job, and the reason why he did it, he thought it was funny, is because he saw how the company's culture, it was like a game for them to walk people out on a Friday. And I won't say the name of the company, they're a Fortune 500 company, very well known. If I say one letter, you'll probably say, oh, is it this company? You'd be like, yeah, you're right. So they had this, it was like with some of these managers, it was like an internal joke almost, where they wanted to wait till Friday to let someone know that was their last day. And they won't have access to anything else after today. Right? So he just never jived with that, man. He never could get with that. It's like, I don't understand that. That's not cool. But they had, a few managers there, that's just what their thing was. So when he and, one of the managers with the director that he, reported to, pretty much was okaying this type of behavior in the workforce. Now, it wasn't something that a lot of the employees knew, but these particular managers knew all about it, and this director was kind of like stamping it, right? So, ultimate payback for him, and I get it. He was, on a Friday, and he didn't start the next job that Monday. He didn't start the next job for 2 weeks. But he gave him that notice. He said, look, today's my last day. And do you know that they were so upset? Like, what do you mean? You got to give a 2-week notice. Matter of fact, you're a manager. You should be giving us a 3-week notice. He was like, this is my last day. He wasn't worried about them trying to take his vacation and do all that, because obviously they can't do that, But it felt good to him to give them a dose of their own medicine. So now he's thinking, well, maybe they'll think about it now when they realize how they're really putting people in positions where a lot of times you're firing the breadwinner, on a freaking Friday. This may be all they have, right? So my take on it is this, guys. If you can give a 2-week notice, give the dang on notice, right? But don't do it to the detriment where you are put at an inconvenience.